Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being here, Mr. Hargan. Firstly, I just wanted to point out that the National Cancer Institute was seeking a $400 million increase in funding over this year for next year. This was intended to bring promising new cancer treatments, particularly in the area of immunotherapy, to market. As you may know, that drug discovery is a process that takes some 10 or 15 years. So when funding is delayed, promising new treatments are delayed, and those promising new treatments are denied for people that are in desperate need of new effective therapies. So the President's budget proposes to cut $900 million from the National Cancer Institute. What is the rationale behind that cut, which is enormous based on anybody's view of it?
When we work within the caps that on the budget, which were set forth by President Obama and this Congress years ago, we face a tough budgetary environment this year. We fully support medical research and the NIH. We know that this is very important to the American people, and particularly the National Cancer Institute is important to ongoing research in oncology and cancer area. Within that, we are also proposing, as I'm sure you've seen, increases for pediatric cancer. So we have attempted.
What is that amount? Is that 50 million?
On pediatric cancer?
Is that initiative $50 million more for pediatric?
Yes, so
Okay.
we're proposing new money for pediatric cancer.
So it's still a cut of $850 million generally to the National Cancer Institute. Does that concern you?
Within the discretionary budget that we have, the NIH is the largest component of our discretionary side of our budget. And we have attempted to be even-handed in how we approached it. We have a lot of different initiatives within the department, and we wanted to make sure that we were as even-handed as we could and as thoughtful as we could when we were confronting difficult.
Well, here's what I would say to you, that government funding has been involved in about 97% of the basic science and research toward the goal of bringing promising new cancer treatments to market. In fact, the last 100 major products from Herceptin for metastatic breast cancer and many of the vaccines for immunotherapy are a direct result of government involvement in the financing of clinical trials that test both efficacy and safety. And a cut of this amount, even when you take into account the increased funding for pediatric cancer, is still $850 million. That will have a devastating impact on what NCI is able to fund to the various cancer institutes throughout the country, including in Buffalo, New York, the nation's first cancer center, Roswell Park. So that's of concern. Secondly, on the issue of Alzheimer's, Alzheimer's is a horrible disease. It inflicts pain not only on the afflicted, but those who love and care for the afflicted. Some 3.5 million new cases will be diagnosed this year. And the primary treatment is a drug called Aricept, and it was developed probably 2 decades ago. And in 60% of cases, it may delay the onset of Alzheimer's by maybe 6 months. This problem is growing, and we don't seem to have a handle on it. I would ask you, what are the administration's initiatives as it relates to developing new treatments for Alzheimer's beyond the Aricept era of those drugs?
We definitely see the impact of Alzheimer's directly on the beneficiaries of our programs. Obviously, a disease like that falls straight into many elements of the Medicare program that we administer. So we take the issue of medical research very seriously across the department to develop new therapies, new modalities to treat it. It has proven a difficult disease to solve, but we're committed to standing behind our researchers that are working on that both at NIH and then in the grantee community that's served with the money that is given generously by Congress to NIH.
Gentleman's time has expired.